Hey, Mark here at Mark's Upholstery. I am going to bring you in briefly on a job I'm doing where I am upholstering a huge rolled arm, flingy looking wing chair with a plaid fabric. That should be against the law. But until it is, we're going to figure out how to get this thing done. You can see right now that I've already kind of started the process on this chair, but I'm going to kind of walk you through it pretending there's a fabric on this arm just to show you how I start. Then I'll show you over here on the cutting table. I actually got the parts over here, and I'll show you where I marked them and how I'm going to put them on the fabric to show you how to get it where it'll match up. First thing you want to do is kind of make a mark from your arm on your wing on the fabric. And what that's going to do is help you know where the fitting is around here, so where you need this fabric to hit and this fabric to hit to fit on the fitting. Which obviously on a plaid you want a stripe going here and it going there. Now you can see I've got a line here. You know, it's the top, I call it the top of the white line. You can call it the bottom of the blue. Hey, you mind not farting over there in my video?
Oh, me?
Okay, you can see I've got, you know, a line here. You can call it the top of the white or the bottom of the blue, it doesn't matter to me. But what I want to do is find out how high off the ground that point right there is, because what I need to do is find out over here, which is in line with the front of my wing, I need to know where that same distance hits coming from the ground here. Well, let me scoot this back. I need to know where it's going to hit. One thing I don't want to do is take this line straight across here, because this chair is a lot taller here than it is here, and I don't want to pitch my lines to the ground. I want them pitched level. I don't want them pitching with the frame. Okay, you can see it's 13 inches about right there to the bottom of that line. So I'm going to get in line with my wing here, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to mark this 13 inches. Okay, because I don't have three arms, you can see my mark is here, and you can see there's a bigger gap here than there is here. But that's okay, because we're going to be level. Here's the purpose and why I'm marking here. What you can see here is I've taken a strip of my fabric that's, you know, got the same up as if it was my out arm, and I've set my white line, the top of my white line, to the 13 inches that it is here, and I've got it here. Now what I want to do is find out where on this wing fabric I need to find another reference point, which again can be the top of the white line if that's what you're using. And we need to know where I need my white line to hit coming across here on the top of it. Okay, so you can see I'm going to say use the top of this white line in here, you know. So I'll mark on the fabric, and just to pretend there's a fabric here, that there's the top of my white line. That tells me where I'm at with my wing. Now, the same goes here for my arm. Pretend there's fabric here for this inside arm. Here's kind of a top of a white line right there. I'm gonna mark that on that fabric too. So now what I've done is I've made it where my in arm's gonna match, you know, come around and match with this, and my wing is gonna match up there going sideways. Now, one additional thing I do down here is, because since I can make it look flow with this arm. You can see where I've kind of got a full white, I've got a full, pretty much a full, you know, when you tuck this, you know, it's pretty much a full blue. So I wouldn't want to have a blue hit here, so I want to have a white line hit here. So I'm going to guess that I want the middle of my white line right about in here. So I'm going to draw that also. I'm going to draw a line here, which tells me where my white line, about the middle of my white line is, because part of it will hit here and some of it will hit there. So it'll look like a white line right there. So now I got a white line going here with the up and down white line, and I've got a white line coming here with this. So when I lay it over there, it looks that way. Let's go look at it. I feel like I'm having to talk a lot just to say a little, but all right, let's go down here and take a look at my parts, actual parts. Okay, right here you have the wing that came off, And you can see here is where I marked the wing with the arm. So you can tell that that's so I'll know exactly where this fitting happens together. And then you can see here is my white line. I messed up first time. I'm just rechecked it and eyeballed it better this way. So here's the top of my white line for this piece. All right, on this one, on this arm, so I'll lay it out on the fabric over there, and I'll make sure that I've got the top of a white line coming right across here on it all the way, and then I've got the middle of a white line going up here on the fabric. All right, here it is on the actual fabric. I'm not going to cut it because I've already cut one, but you can see I've got my white line here, and it's going to come right off down on the white line here. I've got my line right here that comes across to the top of my white line here. Now, one thing to keep mindful of is important is where this line lines up with this blue stripe. And I've got it right about, maybe a 1/4 of an inch over here. Okay, let's look at the wing. Now you can see my mark here for where the top of the white line is supposed to be is right there. And then if you remember on the other one I showed you, the line here, it was about a 1/4 inch over on the blue line coming this way. So now I've got this in position where I need it. Just want to make sure that it looks like it's straight up and down. You don't want this thing tilted, this way or anything. You want it straight up and down. The first thing you always start, is you have to get your deck cut. I always go deck, arms, back. So I went over and I cut my deck. I didn't try to put my lines in any particular place on those. So, but from there is where I build to where I put the end arm, and then I have to make the wing line up with the end arm, and then the back will have to line up with both of those. I'll update you on this as I go. Right now I'm getting ready to start upholstering these end arms, so I'll get that on, and it has the wing sewn to it. So the next time you see me, I'm going to show you with the arms in it. All right, at this point I want to point out what I've done so far. And as you can see here, I've brought my stripe around to match here. Kind of made it look like you went white, blue, white. That's not the most important thing, but and then the key thing here is that you look at the arm, your lines going here, and you want these going straight up. You don't want them to, sometimes on some arms that are kind of flattish like that, people like to think, they like to see a stripe going straight. Well, if you do that, you're going to mess up your outside. So you always want to have everything going straight up and down no matter what the tilt of the arm is. So you'll have a better chance of having it match when you come out here and line up this line and then line up that line. All right, now when it comes to backs, these are pretty simple. You're going to put your tape up there around the edge, whatever you allow, and then come down and make an allowance for whatever you do here, and then you'll either do a pull or cut it long enough to go along. But the idea here is how you're going to line up these lines. Well, some people may do it where they're lining up the middle of here of the arm or the middle of the wing. I try to stay where my line, I use like what I think is close to the middle, because this fabric's going straight up and down. So the distance that the lines runs is one thing. This one's got a slight tilt. So what's probably going to happen is that, what lines up down here may not perfectly line up here. So I like to start somewhere in the middle, like on this white line, make sure it matches, and then it'll go up, and because the tilt's not that bad, it's going to all look like it matches pretty good, but it might be off just a smidge. And same thing going down here, but of course down here the cushion covers, so you could even eliminate, if you want to, this much distance, and then maybe use this line as your center. So, but the idea is to try to center the best you can, so when your lean gets different from your straight, and your lean are two different lengths, so it's best to do it more in the middle, and that's what we'll do eventually after we get this out arm on. You can tell that arm's going to go straight up and down. It's going to have a certain distance. Well, this lean is going to make it longer. So what line comes across here, I'm probably going to match again, try to stay in the middle, and then it'll get a little bit off up here and a little off down there, but it'll generally look like it tried to match. If you tried to line it up down here at the bottom, it's going to be way off up here. If you can see up here, my arm's shorter over here than it is up here. For me to get my overall measurement, I need to measure from the middle. Well, I can do that, and I can try to guess where my line's hitting, but it's easier just to take some kind of stick that's close to the length, you know, and kind of stick it up there like that, like I did here. You know, I want to go with this top of this white line here is kind of my area, you know, and just line that up like so, and then put a mark on it. And now that gives me an area where I can measure down to find out where I want the top of my white line. You can see now I've got my back end. Lines up fairly well all the way, gets off down here, gets off up there, but it's generally, you know, hitting where it needs to hit in the middle. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure to cut. Let me get this out. I'm going to measure to cut for my outside arm. Okay, so one thing I've got to be wary of is I got to, you know, how far I want to come over here, which I'm going to use, you know, probably this blue line area here for my, you know, forward. And then coming out here, I have to allow for what's all this going on up here. So I kind of come up with a number of around 29 inches across here. But I'm going to put the start of my tape here, and I'm going to measure, and I want to focus on the middle of this blue stripe right here. So I want to know, let's say if I'm cutting from the front of this blue stripe and I measure from there, how far am I to the middle of this blue stripe to get my distance for where I need my lines to line up on this right here. Now that takes care of the up and down there. Now the side to side, remember we got 13 inches here. So what I did was mark 13 inches back here on this corner. And then I need to measure what I feel comfortable with down here and go up that way, and that be the top of my white line. And right at 11 for the middle here. And I've got one, you probably can't see it up there, but I've got what I want like an inch and a half above that top. And then I come down to here, and you can see that my white line, my mark for my white line there, I don't know if you can see it really, it's not close, is 33 and a half. And then down below the bottom of the chair to about 37, about where I want my fabric to cut. So that gives me my overall height and where I want my white lines going sideways. While the other way I've got my overall width of around 30 with 11 hitting on the blue, in the middle of the blue. Now you can see I'm measuring from the front here. There was 11 inches that I wanted from where I felt like I needed over here to here. So this is going to be my line here, which luckily is in the middle of this blue. So now I can do my reverse side exactly on the same spot. That's good enough right there. I can go that way and go in this way without wasting anything. So I got my 11 here, and I've just got my 30 there. Now we'll do the up and down. I need 37 minimum, so I'm going to start with down here with 37. And I know that I need 33 and a half at the top of my white line. So if I move this to here where I'm 33 and a half at the top of my white line, I'll have a little more extra here because I'm not going to try to save that. So that means I'll be cutting, and I'll go ahead and cut with that line. So now I've got my up and down that I need here with my where my white line needs to hit, and I've got my side to side with where my blue stripe needs to hit. And all I'll do is reverse that on the other side. Now one thing I'm going to do as far as cutting the cushion is I'm definitely just going to line up my middle stripe like I normally would, just centered. But sometimes it's nice to see, you know, lines coming across here that measure up. So I'm going to be using, since this fits pretty good, other than since I've added a little padding, it's a little bit tight in these areas, so I'm going to trim a little bit off the sides of this top. But I'm going to take this top apart and use it for a pattern. So before I take it apart and trim it up to fit and everything, I want to find out where my blue stripes are going to hit. It can be my blue or my white, doesn't matter. But here's the one I'm going to go with. So I'm going to say, as long as I got a blue stripe coming across, let's get that closer to the edge of that. As long as I got a blue stripe hitting there, and now I'll fold this over and mark it for the others. I'll fold this over and mark it for this other side, so I make sure I get it with this one too. But or I can measure, mark this one too. But it should already be in line because I took the time to make sure, and you have to make sure that you're getting it the same here and the same here. All right, I've now got this cushion in, and you can see that, obviously we run the stripe up, which is normal, and we were able to, get this blue stripe to match. I did elect to put a blue stripe here instead of a white because I didn't want to have a double white hitting here. So it just kind of flows on up like that, but it did put a lot of blue in one little area, but it's a plaid. And it does come around and match kind of here on the side, and then you can see on the outside here we got it, matched here, matched here. You can only match probably about here because this sucks this area down, and this is on a straight up flat where this one's getting pulled down, so about the only place you're going to match it is a little bit here and just definitely in here. So we got that. You can tell it's matched up here because we pulled it, straight here instead of leaning it to what looked like it was with the arm. Now some chairs, it's not as, this is, kind of a big thing here, but sometimes they're just flat and sometimes they got a tilt, and there's this kind of a weird desire to want to stay with the line of the furniture, but you can't do that. You got to go straight up and down if you want to match your outsides. And we have that here. We've got it matched. And of course, we did a pretty good job of matching this side here. It will get off a little bit. You generally start somewhere in the middle, and by the time you go up, now this one was able to stretch a little bit to get there. But you can tell some places, it just doesn't get there, but that's pretty good for being a plaid. But my idea is always to try to make sure I'm matching somewhere around center, and then if I'm going to get off a little bit, it'll get a little bit this way and a little bit that way. So there you go. This is a plaid wing chair of the worst kind you can get. You got it matching just about everywhere you can match it. You can see same thing on this side, so matching it up top. You might keep in mind that there are numerous ways to skin a catfish. This is the way I do it, and it's not saying it's the only way to do it, but if you wanted to see how I do it, that's how I do it, to figure out how I'm going to get my lines to line up all the way around this chair as much as possible, on the wings, on the cushions, everywhere it goes. That's kind of the process I go through.